The Bard Graduate Center has a history of exhibitions on various aspects of corporate design culture. And we were very interested in Knoll. Obviously, we understand the Knoll history in terms of furniture and obviously the roster of designers who have worked with the company. And we're also interested in the various dimensions of modernism, of which Knoll factors prominently, obviously, but also inserting textiles into the history of modernism. In spring 2010, the Bard Graduate Center is going to organize a major exhibition, really retrospective, on the history of Knoll Textiles. The 2010 exhibition, I think, will end up being a very interesting outgrowth of this exhibition, because what we have here, in a way, is a microcosm of that enterprise. On the one side, and we've kind of split this up just physically within two sides of the booth because it lent itself to that, but the historical and the contemporary, in a sense, in between is really where they meet. The exhibition itself will look at the totality of the history of Knoll Textiles, beginning in 1947 with Florence Knoll, and it will come to today with the most recent products that Dorothy is both featuring and making herself.
It was really a collaboration between, obviously, Bard first and foremost, Proenza Schooler, and then Knoll. And it was, I think, Bard understands what Knoll is all about from a historical point of view and truly appreciates, obviously, Knoll as a company, and then certainly the Knoll Textile division. And I've known Nina now for a number of years, but I mentioned to her about working with Proenza Schooler, and I think that really sparked the idea of creating this space around their new designs for Knoll Luxe, and then tying it into our history. And then when you look at this part of the exhibition and you see our wonderful history of 61 years of Knoll Textiles, what's really wonderful to me, and I feel honored truly to work at a company like Knoll, is you can look at these products, and if you didn't see that the tags were necessarily yellowed, or just you can tell they're from a different era, you would never know that they were designed 50, 60 years ago. So I think when you look at that and you look at what's current on the other side of the exhibition, you begin to realize that Knoll is really all about this idea of classic modernism and refined aesthetic, and good design is good design no matter when it was designed and what decade and what era. And what's also really interesting, I think, is when you look at this Herbert Matter ad that he did for Knoll Textiles of this fish, and you see how the fish's gills are different textiles. You look at this, and then you look at this, which is what Proenza Schooler did for the wall exhibition here, and it's sort of that same point of view. You've got this wonderful concept, very unique. This is probably one of my favorite ads from our archives that exists for us by Herbert Matter. And when you look at that and you look at this, is sort of this direct connection, which I really, again, that goes back to this idea of what's real, what's timeless, what's modern, and it's current for a very long time. I think what's interesting about Florence is the first textile she brought into the company was really about men's suiting, and that's what was put on to the furniture initially, because she felt that what was available in the 40s was just unsuitable for the type of furniture that Knoll was bringing in and designing. So her idea was modern textiles for modern furniture, which would go into modern buildings. And what I loved about Florence was that she was certainly gutsy and had an extremely strong point of view. She's quoted as saying that textiles should be simple and direct, and it should not overwhelm the space but complement the space. For instance, next year for 2009, we're going into the archives and reintroducing some of them, and one of them was something that she was key in bringing into the line. So for me, it's all about our foundation products, the solids and textures that I like to do now. I always look back to see what was done with Florence on board and see how they are almost sort of very similar, which is kind of nice, and I think the right way to honor this heritage but keep it moving forward. Throughout Knoll Textiles' 60 years, we've always worked with guest collaborators. There's been creative directors. I'm the 11th creative director for Knoll Textiles, but we've always had guest designers along the way. So for Knoll Luxe, I wanted to bring in a guest designer that was connected to fashion. Our prior guest designers have been architects and graphic designers and weavers like Sheila Hicks and, others, but I really wanted Knoll Luxe to have this connection to fashion. So I've been studying their work for a long time. I appreciate what they do. They understand their craft. I feel they're modern, they're edgy, they understand color, they understand certainly pattern. They understand texture. When we first met with them, one of the first things that Lazaro said to me was, "Oh, I own a piece of Knoll furniture." So he felt this immediate sort of connection to us as a company, and I feel that they are, in their own right, sort of modernists within the fashion world. So I couldn't work with anyone who was more of a traditional type of designer. I just wouldn't think that was right for us.